This is the Vet Alumni Podcast with Tek Prem.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek, he's Prem, and the Sixers made a pick at 3. They did not make any moves. They made their pick. VJ Edgecombe. We all saw it coming after the Ace Bailey catastrophe.
Well, I think they dodged a bullet not taking Ace Bailey. And I say that because of the character side of things. You want a great basketball player, of course. A guy on the court can make an impact. He's really a good young player. 6'8", has a lot of tools. But watching his presser after the Jazz took him, I thought to myself, this dude would get eaten alive.
I get that.
By Philly media.
But see, all right. So
Edgecombe, average pick.
I have a flip side.
I know you do.
To the Ace Bailey side.
Okay.
So from Ace Bailey's point of view, if I'm Ace, I'm looking at the Sixers like, if I go third to the Sixers, I don't know that I'm starting day one.
Fair.
And not only do I not know that I'm starting, if I was to be starting, I'm like the 5th option on the floor.
Right.
Like if I go
when Embiid's healthy and George is healthy.
Right.
But
assuming
still, the over-under for George, Maxey, and Embiid to play a game.
Like 30 games.
Probably. Last year, I gave the benefit of the doubt.
You did. You went like 50 games.
I was way at 45.
45.
I was
you went way.
What did they play, like 11?
Yeah, maybe 15. Something like that.
That is so bad.
It's atrocious.
I don't think it's going to be much different this year.
No. So here's...
I don't.
So, but on the Ace Bailey side, if I look at the Wizards, the Jazz, and the Nets, the 3 teams that he would have fallen to, I look at all 3 of those teams like I'm a day 1 starter, and I'm like the 2nd scoring option on the floor.
Who else they got?
Immediately.
Yeah.
So I could see where Ace Bailey was like, I don't want to go to Philly because I go there, you got all these max contracts and all these guys. I'm the 5th guy. If I even make the starting lineup, which I might not, it might be Oubre starting over me.
Right.
That's the way I see it. Now, with a guy like Edgecombe, and look, everyone's falling in love with the kid because he's a nice guy.
Well,
he's got a very good attitude.
When a pick is made, the section of the fan base that is going to love whatever a team does is always going to pick out the positives.
Yes.
Highlight the positives. Show the great highlight reel. And, hey, it's an awesome highlight reel.
Absolutely.
The kid on the playground, and any playground in America over the last 50 years would look awesome on the playground.
You almost have to discount a lot of college tape.
I know. It's a lot. Same with the NFL, though.
That's true.
How many guys have come out and we thought, oh, this guy's really going to translate?
You're right about that.
Who was that running back that we compared to Sproles a few years ago?
Running backs are
the smaller
always...
back we took that was compared to Sproles a few years ago. Remember?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. What's his name? Yeah.
But everyone was like, oh, he's going to be like another Darren Sproles.
And he was not.
He was on the team for like 1 year.
Yeah, he was a practice squad.
You're right, though.
Pumphrey.
Donnell
Pumphrey.
You got to take it with a grain of salt because the competition is just so different. That's why a guy like Otto Kemp, for example, has hit 14 home runs in AAA, hasn't gone yard in the big leagues yet.
No.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And in basketball, it's like it doesn't always translate. Like maybe Cooper Flagg will be the next superstar.
Kid looks good.
He looks good.
Yeah, so does the guy that got taken after him. Who's
Harper,
on the team.
good player.
Harper, and then the other kid from Duke, with the funny name.
Knipple, who I listen.
Yeah.
I would look. I like Edgecombe.
What a shooter!
Yeah, I think Edgecombe's a good player. Right? He's one of these. He's just another speedy, athletic guard on this team.
At least they got a better rotation at guard now,
I get
probably. But does that win you a ring?
Edgecombe's a little delusional. He comes in, he's like, "Yeah, Maxey, my backcourt partner." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know that you're starting week 1. I mean, how could you be starting game 1 when you got McCain?"
Oh, hey, look, you got to manifest things in this world. You got to project what you want to happen. I respect the kid for that.
Look, I like it.
I
like Edgecombe's attitude.
Got the right attitude.
Kids are falling in love with him like they did Maxey, and I get that. But, like, you chose a guy, and I get it. At 3, you're not going for need. You're going for best player. It's just that the Sixers never, ever draft the Euro white guy that can shoot.
No, like the Ginobili's of the world.
The 6'7" white guy that can shoot your lights out. They never draft that guy. And I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Why don't they draft that guy?
I know.
And it kind of bugs me. And I knew they weren't going to, and he went right afterward. He went right for the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, everything I read about that kid is he's just a shooter. He can stop and pop. He's a really good player.
And the one thing Edgecombe, I think, brings that we lacked for the last couple of years is he's good off the offensive glass. We haven't had guys who can clean up, missed shots. It's not. I wouldn't put a premium on it like the number 3 pick. I'm like, oh, well, we need a guy who's fast. I get it. He's a fast break player. I like this VJ Edgecombe kid. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I don't know if I make that pick at 3 and I draft VJ Edgecombe.
I agree with you.
And I know a lot of the analysts,
the pundits,
like the experts, they don't agree. They think VJ Edgecombe was the guy.
Experts that all picked the Chiefs to beat the Birds in the Super Bowl.
Well, right.
Because some of these guys they talk NFL, then they talk WNBA, then they talk NBA, like Ryan Clark.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
But it's funny you should say Clark. Airport Johnny Clark. I was watching his podcast, and I don't always catch him, but he had Jay Billis on last week, so I was like, let me check it out.
Great guest,
so I was watching, and I actually, a guy like Jay Billis, like when he starts to talk basketball, like I take it seriously.
Yeah, that's a guy that is almost like Dick Vitale level.
Right.
The next generation.
And he's plugged in to every guy coming in this draft
He's
class.
almost like the Mel Kiper of the draft analysis, but Mel Kiper's wrong way more than Jay Billis is wrong.
He said the 3rd best guy in this draft was Ace Bailey, and without question, the 4th best guy is VJ Edgecombe. They're 3 and 4, and depending on what you are looking for in a player, either one of them could be 3.
Right. Well, it was a 4-inch size difference. I've heard a lot of comparisons to Kevin Durant with Bailey.
Yeah, with Bailey. That's
a
the
lofty expectation.
Right. And when Durant got drafted to Seattle Supersonics way back,
right?
That's how long he's been in the league.
Defending NBA champion.
Yes. When he got drafted to that squad, he was like day one the superstar.
Yeah. Well, that's a generational talent. You really haven't
Bailey
had
thinks
many.
He's that. So like Bailey wants to go to a team where he has a chance to be that.
Yeah, maybe he is.
So like
you never know.
I understand. I don't love the way he handled this situation here, but I part of me gets
it's a bad look. I mean, just the way the optics of it, and it makes you look immature when first impressions are really important.
Right. It did not stop Utah and Danny Ainge. Remember, it's Danny Ainge over there
that's
in
so
Utah.
Poetic,
it did not stop Danny Ainge from immediately swooping in.
So poetic.
So, I think that he's a good pick, but I saw Phil Steifel, and I defended Phil Steifel, by the way. Somebody, he tweeted this out, the same thought. I agreed. I thought the very same thing. And somebody said, oh, that's a classic Eagles fan take. I'm like, look, he said, VJ Edgecombe is a good player. It does not make the Sixers better. It doesn't fix the Sixers. And it doesn't.
Well, no. I mean,
it adds to a team, sure. Look, but it does not fix their situation.
You know what fixes the Sixers, Tech? You ready for this? Robotic knees for Joel Embiid.
Or
Bionic Man.
Moving Joel Embiid.
Well, that ship is sailed.
Yeah, same thing with Paul George. Because it felt like
I don't know.
Well, it felt like they tried to move Paul George and nobody was like willing to take that contract.
That's something I thought and I still think could happen before opening night. That Paul George is somewhere else.
I
think it still could happen.
I would like that because the dude takes the podcast more seriously than he takes.
Look, when you have more podcast episodes than quarters played,
that's what it is
for a team. That's bad.
It is bad,
and we say that as podcasters, approaching episode 170 soon. Tek.
Yes. Did you see? I saw on Twitter. This was insane. The Clippers and Thunder did a deal where the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just won the championship.
They're so loaded and set up for success, man.
The Clippers traded them Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and like 6 first-round picks. One of them turned out to be
I saw this breakdown.
Yeah, one of the second guys on it. Yeah, one of the guys. Right,
it's funny. It's NBA champs. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, Jalen, what's his name? But the second guy, the second fiddle guy is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They traded Shai Gilgeous and like 6 picks, and those picks, a couple of those picks turned out to be guys that were on this team. For Paul George. Paul George went to the Clippers.
I saw that.
It was. I'm looking at this deal like, man, the Clippers are the biggest buffoons.
I know.
And the Sixers then sign Paul George one season for it's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
The guy, he was a very good player at one point. He was actually probably a top 10 player in the league at one point. But now his ship has sailed just like Joel's has. And
losers.
It makes me sad to say it. You know, I said it last offseason that was the window to trade Joel before last season began, before the Olympics.
Turns out you were right.
You're
right
in
about
basketball, that. It's not like I'm usually right in baseball.
Yeah.
But not as much in basketball. You're usually right more in basketball.
You were letting frustrations take the wheel on that train of thought. And
right.
I agree. You ended up being correct.
That was the peak point of his value, like a stock, like when you sell a stock.
I knew after his MVP year, you thought they should move him right then, and I knew that they weren't.
They weren't. Because, I mean, you really, even though it's like I said that, you know, a team really can't do that.
They can't.
Like, not because no one will take them, but because it just doesn't occur.
It's your MVP,
it doesn't occur.
And you think that's your best shot to a championship.
But knees and back for a guy that size, and it's like his face is made of glass. I mean,
he's made of glass.
It's really a shame because Joel as a person, I like Joel. I think he's like a good guy. You could tell he cares about the city.
Yeah,
but the bottom line is he's not a championship player.
No, and when he is absolutely healthy, he's the most dominant player in the sport.
But he will never be that again.
No, he won't. He'll never be 100% healthy, and he might be 100% healthy for a few games.
50 games plus the postseason is the most you're going to get. You probably won't even get that.
I don't think you'll ever get that, and I don't think you'll ever get that from Paul George even. I think this is a lost cause. This group is a lost cause.
It is.
Now let's flip to the Phillies because I have a similar thought. My thinking with this lineup, look, the rotation, keep the rotation. Rotation's
they're World
good.
Series ready.
Rotation is World Series
Rotation's
ready.
Yeah, ready. We've known that.
Yeah, I keep a couple guys in the bullpen. I don't completely blow it up. I dismantle it.
You're going to the offseason.
I have to rebuild.
I'm at the trade deadline still.
You know why I'm not at the trade deadline? Because you ain't doing nothing at the deadline. Okay, and let me tell you why.
I don't know. I think this week was good for that reason.
You're doing minor moves.
I think this week losing like they did in Houston.
Here's my
is
thing.
Good for them maybe making a move.
I don't think they're winning the World Series, and I'm not willing to be bad for the next 4 or 5 years to just get to the World Series.
I hear you.
I'm not willing to do it.
Well, the
83
83 Phillies, they went 42 straight innings without scoring at one point, and they won the National League, Tek.
I hear you. I don't know that that's happening. I think they're renting. I think they're renting first place, and I think the lease is almost up.
Okay, that's a fair take, and it's easy to kick someone when they're down.
Look, I know they'll bounce back. It might not be for a few weeks based on the schedule.
No, I think that Atlanta gets the brunt of it this weekend.
Maybe Atlanta's hot right now, and the Phillies are not.
They're getting fair enough. Let me give you something though. So, who would you say the top 3 World Series contenders are right now? It's pretty obvious, but I just want to hear you say it.
I go Detroit. We're going Major Leagues.
Yeah,
I'm going Detroit. I'm going Dodgers. And boy, when we're talking about a third team, it's a toss-up.
It's either
right
the
now.
Yankees or
the Cubs or the Mets.
All right, there you go. So Dodgers, Yankees, Tigers, Cubs. 4 teams I thought you might say.
Yeah, those are the 4.
The amount of times each of those teams has scored 0 or 1 runs halfway through the season. Dodgers 11 times. Yankees 13 games, including, like we alluded to, 30 consecutive scoreless innings. Tigers, the best team in baseball, 14 games. Cubs, 11 games. And Phillies, because 3 in a row just now, it was 12. It's 15. So they're right in that same. All the best teams have scored 0 or 1 run 11 to 15 times. So I say this because the fans get upset, and I know it was tough to watch. Houston is also just a place they don't win. They have their number.
That team is so unimpressive. That lineup is such
it's
such
like
an
sneaky good, though.
lineup.
It's like sneaky good.
But at home, they scored 4 runs at home in a full series. 5.
I know.
5. It's the most blah lineup.
I say all this because, you're right there with all these other great teams that are World Series contenders. They've had almost as many horrible days at the plate as you have. And these are similar expectations for all these teams. So I say that then to say Dombrowski knows exactly what I just said too. And I think this might spurn him to get Middleton to make a real move, get one more bullpen arm and one more real bat. Then they have a chance, Tek.
But how you getting those?
Well, you're going to have to use some of your prospects.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
But you have to if you want to win a World Series. So it's like you can't have both.
I don't think you're winning a World Series. So if I know in my heart of hearts,
well, not as they're currently constructed,
right?
But they could if they make moves.
It's the offensive. You're not fixing this with a bullpen arm. You're not fixing this.
You need a real bat to fix it.
No, I think you can add a real bat, but you ain't getting it. You ain't getting Duran from the Red Sox without giving up.
Did I not
Painter
want Duran?
And Crawford.
Did I not want Duran a year ago?
But
Remember
you're not
talking
getting
about
him
Duran.
Let me tell you something that grinds my gears. Right?
Peter Griffin.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated. And it's not just them. It's another major publication I'm forgetting.
Of sports publications.
I'm reading something about Duran to the Phillies on a major sports publication. And I don't know what planet this writer is from. They're obviously not from Philadelphia.
Let me float something your way. Ranger Suarez is on an expiring contract. And just like Embiid's value would never be higher than it was when we just talked about, Rangers' value will never be higher than it's going to be in July.
He's your best pitcher right now.
But you can absorb the fact that you have
the best pitcher
you have
right
Wheeler,
now.
Sanchez, and Luzardo. You're only starting 3 starters in a postseason. You can absorb, and you have Nola coming back.
Four.
You have Nola coming back. He's going to be
trust
rested.
Nola,
He's going to be
I
rested.
like Luzardo.
He's going to be rested. Oh, Luzardo's been lights out most times. Most times. 11 of his 16 starts completely lights out.
2 historically bad ones and a third
but
that
there
was
something
terrible.
There was something with his mechanics. He was tipping, and they were onto it, and both teams got it, and he fixed it, and then he's been pretty much lights. The game we went to against the Cubs, lights out, and the game against the Mets, lights out. 2 contenders. Suarez, that's a piece that you can get a Duran with Suarez in a deal if they're going to do a trade and then promise to give him an extension.
Okay. Well, because I'm reading this thing, and it's like,
I love Ranger.
The Phillies could potentially move top prospects Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford to score Duran. It would be big for a bold move for the playoffs. Like you don't know these players, do you? You don't know these players. You have to know nothing about these players to bring up this hypothetical trade, because
that's what these guys do.
It's
all
a non-starter.
Hypotheticals. It's all, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Because one thing I can't do, right? This is where I'm at now. And by the way, to counter you saying what you saw this last series is good for making a deadline move.
Making a deadline move. It's more apparent. It's more apparent.
I go the other way. I know that I look at this offense and I gotta blow this offense up.
Well, you're out without Bryce right now too. That's something that people are not considering.
I considered
They're not complete right now.
But
they're just not a complete team.
But it's not just Bryce. No, I look at what Trey Turner did, and Castellanos did, and Schwarber did this series, and Bohm did, and it was horrendous.
Well, yeah, but Turner leads the National League in hits. He's having a phenomenal year. You really can't.
I get it. I'm not gonna.
Guys are gonna have bad series.
It's not just that. Trey Turner has started off for the last 2 weeks. Every game he goes 0 for 2, 0 for 3, and then he gets 2 hits like he did the Mets.
I don't know. If you chart that out, you'll be surprised. He's had a couple really good games in there.
I get it. I'm not down on Trey Turner.
Schwarber's taking a big downturn, but he'll bounce back and pop some home runs.
Bohm is 50-50 stat.
But Bohm hitting 280.
I get it.
These guys are still overall, they're not having horrible years except for Scott's not doing too well.
I'm back to now, and it's not just based on this series. It's based on even in a lot of the games they've been winning. This year, I now know in my mind that I have to. If I'm front office from Dombrowski or I'm Middleton, I'm in the front office, I know I have to blow this offense up. I cannot come back with, we'll just extend Real Muto. We'll re-sign Schwarber. You cannot do that.
No, well, next year, we've talked about this before. This is the last hoorah for this group.
Yeah, you have to blow this offense up. But if I know that, I cannot move pieces of the future.
With pitching like this, right, you can make one move for offensive piece with pitching like this, and that could feasibly be enough to win the National League and go to the World Series.
Who's the piece? Well,
I don't know. That's what Dombrowski has to figure out. I'm talking about a closer, like a Bednar. We talked about Bednar for the Pirates.
I don't think you're getting him.
He's on an expiring deal.
I don't know. I don't think you're getting the deadline is
Go get me Mason Miller from the A's.
Like, if you're going to get a decent deal, like, will you trade somebody that's okay? I'm willing to part with him and get a guy. You're getting an Austin Hayes. You're getting a Estevez.
Well, that's what I mean.
You're getting one of those guys.
Estevez, by the way, having a phenomenal season.
Yeah, but you know, we got him last year.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting primo guys. Deadline is for rip-offs.
Well, they can use
ripped
the
off.
I know you don't want to, but they're going to have to use a prospect or an established name already on the roster.
It can't be
to get a good piece.
There's three untouchables. I'm not moving away from Miller,
course,
Crawford, or Painter.
Okay,
I'm not moving away from them.
There's other pieces though. You got Tate down there. He's got some value.
I look a real mood. Yeah.
Otto Kemp has value. He shows he can play at the big league level.
My thing with Tate is like, yo, if we win if we're like looking like we're about to win the division, things are going good. It's like, all right, we
this
trade
division's
Tate.
coming down to the last week of the season.
We still got another
The Mets
month to the deadline.
Yeah, Mets and the Phillies are going to trade first place 3-4 more times.
In the next couple weeks, if the Phillies are 3 games up in first place, and it looks like, yo, this is our division. We've turned it around a little bit. That offensive funk is over, and we've turned like that point. I'm like, all right, we'll move Tate, but like I gotta put Tate on hold right now
because of the Real Muto.
Yeah,
downtime.
I can't bring back JT. I cannot bring him back.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think, like I said before, I think obviously Casty, Schwarber, Real Muto. These guys
I gotta move.
Probably have played their last games as Phillies once this season's over.
And I gotta move Marcia Kepler at the deadline too. One of them have to go.
Just want to win the last game, Tek.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want to move Kepler. I don't know how you're accomplishing that. So most likely, you move Marsh. But this team,
Marsh actually turned it on.
No, I like Marsh.
Kid's hitting like 320 over the last month.
Yeah, but they'll die on the Brandon Marsh Hill. This front office.
Yeah,
they'll
you
die on
gotta
his
sell
hill.
when the value is high.
Yeah, I would move. You got to get Crawford up here. People are like, well, forget about it. He's not a home run hitter. It's like, dude hits. He hits.
Well, neither is Marsh.
Right. I need a guy, a spark, and I'm not getting it.
But you know what? It doesn't always translate, man. Crawford could come up here and
I get it.
It might not translate.
All I know is he's been phenomenal at every single level.
He has. He's a big league
He's gotten
player.
promoted so fast. Another guy I don't want to move on from is the DiMartini kid. I know that they elevated him because they want to make him appealing to teams that might be shopping.
Right.
I don't want to get rid of him. He's
news.
another guy who's like, he's moving up fast in every class that he's in.
He's got that weird delivery, right, that kid?
I don't know. He's a hitter. He's a hitter.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the pitcher. They just made a move in their system with the pitcher with the sidearm delivery.
Carson DiMartini, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to get rid of some of these guys. These guys are like your future, and like if you move on from them, then you risk being bad for years to come after they fail in the playoffs this year.
Right.
And I don't want to risk it all.
I'm on the buy train with the Phils because when you look at all the other teams that are competing for a World Series, there's a reason why, in spite of the fact they just had a horrible showing in Houston, there's a reason why Vegas still has them as the 4th best odds to win it all because the pitching is supreme. And that's what matters, and that's what wins in the postseason. So you're going to have games in the postseason that are going to have to be...
But that's where I have them, too.
Well, they're going to have to be 3-2 wins, 4-3 wins.
I have them as like the 4th team, and when it all comes down to it,
well, that's why
they won't be one of the last two.
Maybe not. I mean, look.
I think they're good enough to get to the NLCS, maybe, but
Yeah, but they got the Cubs number. The Mets and the Dodgers are toss-ups.
I look at this offense.
Toss-ups, man.
And I saw in this series what I'll see in October because this is what they do. This is who they are.
Maybe. I mean, you might not be wrong about that. I think that
I think you got to blow it up.
Bryce back, and he's healthy Bryce, and you make one move and bring a real hitter in here, that offense would look significantly different than what you just saw in Houston because you have Bryce in there, one more legitimate bat. If that means you got to part with a prospect, I'm for it if it means that you are now 1 or 2 runs better per game with superior pitching. That's a big boost in the postseason.
And the rumor that has to die, it has to die, I can't take it, is the Luis Robert rumor.
He's not a good player.
He's terrible.
He's not a good
He's
player.
batting in the 100s. I get the updates because I Google him so much. I get the Google update.
They got you.
0 for 4, 0 for 5,
Yeah,
0 for 3 every
They got you
night.
pegged. They got you pegged with the AI.
Yes, he's an awful player.
Yeah.
I read something. I'm telling you, I read it to my dad, and he almost
spit his coffee.
Yeah,
out.
right. It almost fell on the floor. I mean, it literally said something about moving on for moving Miller and Crawford for a deal for Luis Robert.
That's
you have to be on
preposterous.
drugs.
No, if you're going to move those two, you are getting a MVP candidate.
You have to. You have to.
That's the kind of move I'm talking about. So I'm talking about, we see what they've done in recent years. You talked about the Austin Hayes of the world and
that's
the
what they're going to do.
Merrifield signings or whatever. Guys like Kepler. I'm talking about the top tier splash trade. That's what Dombrowski's going to have to do to throw a jolt into this clubhouse.
But for me, I don't think they're going to do that. And I
hope they do, Tek. You're probably right, but I hope they do.
I don't think they will.
That's what it takes. If you want to win a chip, that's what it takes.
A part of me doesn't really want them to for some reason.
You want to win rings, man.
I want to move Kepler or Marsh for a better bullpen arm than we have currently.
Okay. You do need a bullpen arm.
And bring Crawford up.
There needs to be 2 splash trades made to even compete for a World Series.
I don't think they're going to do it. And by the way, you're using the word splash very nonchalantly. I just don't think that I don't think the Phillies have a splash in them. I don't think, and it's not just about Dombrowski. I don't think Dombrowski's a splashy guy at all. And it's not just Dombrowski. I don't think Middleton is down for a splash.
I think he expected
because
to
he's
get
delusional.
More. He expected to get more than what he's gotten from guys.
He thinks that they are a World Series team as constructed, and he's not saying
that's
based on what he sees on the field.
But he said that before Alvarado was suspended.
But he's not saying that based on what the talent level. He's saying it based on the checks he's paying out.
He's saying it based on pedigree.
His payroll. He's looking at his payroll and going, well, I think we're good here, guys. That's what he's doing.
Right, I hear you. You're probably right on that.
And that pisses me off.
I still think that they are going to at least try.
I hope they try. I just don't know.
Bryce is going to come back in August and September. You're going to have a whole different.
When is Bryce coming back too? By the way, when is he coming back?
Within 2 weeks, I think he'll be on the field.
Because it's like
he's already taken 50 swings a day or something.
And they're saying, well, it's up to Bryce now. It's he's got to come in and say he's ready. Well, when is he going to be ready?
You want to make sure, though. Here's the thing with an injury like that, it's almost like an ankle, right? You can think you're good and feel good and you're cutting, but it takes one moment to retweak it. But if you wait an extra 2 weeks past when you feel ready to play, then it has that extra time. And I think with a wrist or an ankle, that really makes a difference. So I would rather at this point that they hold him out personally. So after the All-Star break, let him rest, let him take his BP, whatever he's doing for rehab, and then after the All-Star break, you attack that last 30% of the season.
When's that? Next week, the All-Star break?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Middle of July. So that's how I would approach it, and I think that's what you're going to see. I think Bryce is back after the All-Star break.
I think they need to bring Crawford up, and I don't think we'll see him until August. I don't think you'll see him until after the deadline.
That's fine though, because it's going to hinge on what you get too.
And they're going to bring Painter up at some point, and he'll start in the bullpen, which they need him. They need him in the bullpen.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, come playoff time, you're potentially going to have Painter and Nola coming out the pen. Think about that.
I would. That's what I would have.
You'll have Painter, Nola, Kerkering, Strahm.
Yeah, because right now, my starting pitchers in October are...
It's the top 4 that are out
It's Wheeler, Ranger, Sanchez, Lazaro.
No question.
Those are my 4.
So that's such a huge benefit. And Nola's a team guy. He knows the deal. He understands.
He's getting paid way too much to be a bullpen guy, though. But I hear you.
But that's what it would be. And you'd be a little stronger if you did have Nola and Painter coming out the pen. And you obviously, Kerkering and Strahm are the only guys you can kind of trust out the pen as it is now anyway. Who else do you trust?
Strahm. He's just overused, overworked.
Yeah, Romano hasn't been horrible. Actually.
No,
Romano's actually like
he's pulled it together.
He's tightened it up.
Yeah, and
but he's still the last guy coming out.
Kerkering gave
of the
up
pen.
his first run in like 19 innings or whatever.
Yeah, the kid's a stud.
So he's turned it around completely.
I just worry with Kerkering. I worry about when the lights are bright.
Me too. When the stage is set,
the
lights are bright.
It's like the Lamar Jackson thing.
Yeah.
All-time regular season great. Dan Marino, Phillip Rivers, all-time regular season greats.
I don't know that Kerkering has that in him.
But once them lights are on, I feel like he still has like that like childish look a little bit.
In high pressure moments, I don't fully trust him.
I don't know either. Strom, I do though.
Yeah, well,
I feel
he's been there, done that.
Ratchets it up in those scenarios.
Yeah, my worry about Strom is that he's just overworked.
He's been giving up more long balls this year than ever before.
Yes,
key long balls.
And one of my top concerns is actually, and I know people are against me on this, but man, it continues to be the manager. I feel like they've hit their ceiling with this guy. My feeling on Rob
Philly
Thompson.
Rob.
I as a guy, I love Rob Thompson as a guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But as a baseball manager, I can't stand him. Like top of the ninth, it's a winnable game, 1-0, 2 men on, 1 out. You got a chance in this, and you allow Buddy Kennedy 0 for 3 career minor leaguer to bat.
I know.
Then after he does the puniest infield pop up you've ever seen,
who are you putting in?
Anybody else, Marchand, anybody else.
Marchand should have been the guy that came in for Rojas.
Then you allow Rojas, looks like the bat weighs 1,000 pounds on his shoulder.
He's in a 2-0 count and he swings.
I can't believe it.
He swung.
Even McCarthy, he swung. I said my jaw dropped, and then McCarthy goes, "Well, that's not a pitch. You got to know better than to swing at that. You swung at ball 3. You got to take that in a game like this. You're not Bryce Harper, dude. You cannot swing at that pitch."
I'll tell you what, though. When it comes to teams like the Phils, or whether you're the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees, all the teams we listed earlier. When it comes to teams like that going through these like really bad slumps where they lose 2 or 3 in a row and the offense is silent, most of the time, this is even true with the Phillies this year, they come back and like they'll rip off 5 of 7.
I know, they're going to do that.
It just happened. They were 1 and 9 and 10, then they went 8 and 2 the next 10.
I expect that.
It's just kind of how this goes. It's about the aggregate.
But how could you be down 1-0 in the top of the ninth? With 2 men on, one of those being in scoring position.
I know.
And allow Buddy Kennedy and Rojas to bat.
That's bad.
How could you let that take place?
Joe Torre never would have let that happen.
Nobody would have made that happen.
Learned under
the guy in Arizona, the guy in New York, the guy with the Braves. None of them would have allowed that to happen. Rob Thompson waved the white flag in a winnable game. It's the first game of this series,
Crazy.
And you're on the road.
I know.
I'll never understand this.
No.
And it burns me up. Like, there's some football plays that it'll be 4 weeks after that happened, and I'll still bring it up because it burned my retinas, and I'll never forget it.
Like, I can't wait for football, Tech. You mentioned football. I get excited hearing the word.
But I'm telling you, I will never forget. Top of the ninth.
I know.
1 out.
Kennedy and Rojas.
2 men on.
Send them up.
And you got a career minor leaguer who's 0 for 3 on the night, by the way, and all 3 of his at-bats were pathetic.
Really bad.
And Rojas,
he's overweight, too.
And Rojas is so struggling right now.
I know.
He's so struggling offensively.
I do like Johan. I do.
I love him, but he's struggling at the plate.
He's not a major league hitter.
I can't let those 2 guys bat in that spot.
I'm finally off the Rojas can develop into a major league hitter train. I was on it the whole way.
He is what he is. He's a weapon in certain aspects, but not as a hitter.
Speed and defense, which come in handy at certain points in the game.
That's
when you're up a few runs late, bring him in, let him field.
Yes.
When you need a pinch runner, it's a tie game late.
He's great in those spots.
But hitting is just not it.
No, he ain't it. He's he's dreadful.
Yeah, he is.
So I can't believe that happened, and it burned me up like to that extent. And even with Ranger, right? Ranger, when he gave up that first hit, right? That was like, he gave up a hit. But he lost his focus for a minute and gave up a second hit.
He did.
He was in his head because he gave up that hit.
We all think that the hit no-hitter's coming.
Right. And Ranger was so pumped that he let it get to him. He got out of that inning. He was cooked, okay? Yeah. You should have brought somebody in the 7th, but I get it. You don't trust your bullpen, so bring him back out for the 7th. Hey, he had a good 7th inning.
Well, he made one mistake in the 8th.
Why bring him back out for the 8th?
Well, the pitch count was low.
But so what?
But he earned it. He hadn't given up a run.
I get it.
He earned it.
But he was bound to. It felt like it was going to happen.
I didn't feel that.
I
mean,
did.
When they happen, they happen. It's baseball.
He got out of the 7th, and I thought, good. Perfect, because I felt like he was cooked in the 6th. He got out of the 6th unscathed, and You know, when he lasted the 7th and came out the 7th unscathed, I said, "Whew, all right, good.
Yeah.
Get him out.
Yeah.
Get him out." And he brings him back in. I'm like, oh, no, something bad's going to happen. Then he gives up the home run, and it's like, that's game. Yeah. It's insurmountable. 1-0 is insurmountable against this Phillies squad.
Our starters allowed 3 runs in 3 starts.
The starters were magnificent.
So good.
You know what burned me up the next day, too, by the way? Speaking of grinding my gears, the next morning, the NBC Sports Philadelphia headline was great performance from Ranger Suarez. He made one mistake, and that cost the game. It's like, that's not what cost them the game.
Offense cost the game.
Yes!
That should
one
be
mistake, one home run is a mistake.
That's a 3-1 win. You had first and second the first 3 innings.
Guy gives up 1 run. It's a mistake. Yeah, okay, gives up a home run. Big deal.
But they left 7 on base in the first 4 innings.
Which should have been at least 3 runs.
I would
3-1 game.
Two conservatively.
All right.
But yeah, that's a 2-1 win.
You should win this game.
That should have been a Phillies sweep.
I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know, man. Tough to watch. But you know what? They're going to bounce back in Atlanta tonight, and I'm excited to see it.
I hope.
Tonight.
Atlanta's hot, and the Phillies are not. I hope. I'm hoping.
Got a good vet fact for you, by the way.
Good, because that's where we're at. Brought to you by the Fairless Hills Academy of Music. It's time for VetPhact.
This is a VetPhact.
Tek, the early 80s. What a great time to be a Phillies fan. June 27th, 1982. The Mets would come to town with a 35-37 record.
Yeah.
And they would lose 8-3 to the Phils, who were leading 8-0 after 4. The game was effectively put away. 43,134 fans would pack the Vet.
That's a good Vet crowd. Yeah,
it is. Schmitty had a hit with 2 runs scored. Bo Diaz, catcher Bo Diaz, drives in 3 runs with the first inning 3-run pop with 2 outs to get it all rolling for the Phils.
Yes.
Vukovic also goes yard with a 3-run home run in the 3rd inning. 2 3-run pops in the early portion of this game, and that really proved to be all they would need. But Manny Trio added a couple hits.
There we go.
Sarge, Gary Matthews added a couple hits.
Woo.
Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, rest in peace, drove in a run and had a hit.
Yep.
Greg Gross had a hit. Ivan De Jesus had a hit. Just a good night to be at the Vet. You got a really nice performance from pitcher Mike Krukow, who went 7 innings, scattering 6 hits, allowing only 1 run with 6 Ks. He did walk 4, but they didn't burn him. Ron Reed comes in, pitches the final 2 innings. Reed was so frequent in this era of Phillies ball. From 1976 through the whole run, he was one of the mainstays that doesn't get talked about enough.
No.
But on this date, Sunday, June 27th, 1982, the Phils would knock off division rival New York by a score of 8-3.
8-3. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
8 runs. Haven't seen that in a bit.
No,
well,
you
did see it against the Mets.
Yeah.
It's all 10.
You did.
It was a weird series, right? 3 blowouts.
Yeah, that was a very,
really weird.
very strange
I'll take 3
series.
blowouts any day of the week if the Phils had 2 of them.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you on that. I mean, I thought I hated the McAble start, but look, the kid was in a tough spot coming into that game. Everyone
he's a rookie. You're bound to have a step back against a good club. It was his first true step back in the pros.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but he's got some tools. That's another guy we didn't talk about. That's a trade piece, man.
For me, he is.
Abel and Marsh should be able to get you a nice bullpen arm. That should get Bednar. Abel, with Skeens out there, Abel and Marsh Pittsburgh would jump on that.
They got 2 closers, don't they? Bednar, and they got a guy that's even higher rated than him.
Their pitching is actually surprisingly pretty good all around.
How is that possible?
Well, they're like what the Phillies just were in Houston. They're that all the time. Offensively.
I couldn't.
Skeens
I can't live
losing
like
games
that.
2-0, 2-1.
I can't live like that.
No, I know.
I just can't do it.
Pittsburgh fans do.
That is.
They do.
That's.
Yeah.
You got to feel bad for a fan.
Go get me Bednar. Go get me a real bat. I don't know who, but get me a real bat. Duran. You got enough to get Duran if you wanted to get him.
You got to feel bad for a fan base that sees their team every night.
Pittsburgh fans are insufferable. But only more insufferable fan base is New York Mets.
Well.
The Pittsburgh fans are some of the most insufferable fans in the world.
And if Juan Soto was a Philly, I wouldn't feel this way. But watching Juan Soto, I just feel like he's one of the most obnoxious players I've ever seen.
He is.
I can't stand him.
And the laughing at the plate, the joking.
I hate it.
Be professional.
I hate it.
I saw a list of the least clutch players this year, and he's number 1.
Really?
Nick Castellanos number 2.
Yes, I would say that.
In clutch moments.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't look at the detail of what they were defining as that. These advanced metrics, it's like there's so many of them these days.
Yeah.
But it was the top clutch thing, and it was from a reputable source.
Yes.
It was Soto 1 and Castellanos 2. And
That
a lot
makes
of these
sense.
guys' defense, though, a lot of the names on the top 20 were like big stars. I mean, it's because
I
they're
get
up
that.
in that part of the lineup. With
And they
people on
strike
base,
out
and they
in that
strike
lineup.
out,
Yeah,
or they
of
pop
course.
out, or it's a double play ground ball.
Oh, did we see plenty of those? Oh, my God.
I think Bohm actually. Oh, wait a minute. Bohm just hit into a double play.
As we speak.
As we speak.
Bohm is in a double play.
At home, he's at home with Marsh playing video games.
Yeah.
Hitting to a double play.
He's at the Dairy Queen, and he hit a double play. Everywhere, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Bohm is hitting into a double play.
For sure. But he's
Oh,
also
my
actually,
God.
we're joking about Bohm, but the kid's hitting 280.
He is.
He really picked it up since April. He's hitting 300.
Yeah, I definitely. He's not on
But
my.
Bohm isn't really the problem.
He's not on my trade block, and he's not on my problem
No,
list.
he was on my trade block last year.
Yeah.
Though. But you actually were against that, and for good reason.
Yeah, I have now. Stott is on my trade block.
Yeah, Stott, Marsh, Abel. Go get me some pieces.
And
you can put Sosa
and
out
Kepler.
there, man.
Kepler's actually my number 1 piece, but it's like Kepler, Marsh, Stott, and Abel, and I guess
and a prospect.
I guess
and
what
a
you say about
prospect, and you can with those.
Yeah,
you could get something, man.
I can't give you one of my top 4 or 5 prospects.
Well, to make that splash move, you have to.
I know. I can't do it. I can't risk
A prospect is a prospect. A proven commodity on a team that's 2 pieces away from a chip is a proven commodity.
It would have to be,
Well, yeah, it will be.
an
That's what I'm saying.
eyebrow-raising
That's what I'm
commodity.
saying. That's the kind of trade that I think they know they have to make.
Well, I hope so. I just I'm telling you,
You'll believe it when you see it.
Yes.
Right now, it's like the never-ending story. Right now.
Yeah, because after seeing what I just witnessed,
I know.
It's hard.
It's recency bias because
Well,
you go to the weekend, we're excited. They just took 2 through the Mets,
Yeah.
But also, I'll say this: coming off of an emotional series, it's always letdowns. A lot of letdowns after emotional series against division rivals. That's frequent. In football, that's frequent. In baseball, that's frequent.
I get that. All right, you lose 2 or 3, but to lose the way they lost, just these, getting
I hear you.
26 shutout innings.
It's bad.
It's just it's disgraceful.
I know,
it was an
it's pretty bad.
embarrassment.
It
And
is
I don't envision that we're going to see a whole lot much different when it comes October. This is who they are. I gotta blow them up. I can't come back next year.
Okay, all right.
And by the way,
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a few months.
I feel like,
know.
speaking of the deadline, I feel like when we're talking about what they need, that's what needs to get done in the winter.
Yeah.
You need to do it in the winter.
Yeah.
You can't really address it the way
I
it
hear
needs
you.
to be addressed at the deadline because you're going to get robbed.
Right, because teams know it's a leverage thing. It's all about leverage.
And it's high robbery. And even more so than like in the NFL. Like in the NFL, you trade a guy for like a 5th rounder or a 4th round pick.
Yeah, teams do it because the NFL is a little different.
Yeah,
it's a little different.
The
with the
NBA,
trades.
you trade a player for a player, but like, look, the Celtics just traded Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons, and everybody's like, "Oh, Anthony Simons, I'm a fan." Anthony Simons might not even be on the Celtics. Okay,
Right,
they
right.
traded for a guy who I don't even know is going to be on that roster.
And Tatum is Tatum ever going to be the same? We'll see.
Yeah, because he's hurt, right? He's
the Achilles.
Yeah, he's going to be out.
We'll see.
And they might trade the other guy, Jalen Williams. They might trade him.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Jaylen Brown, you mean?
Jaylen Brown. Sorry, Jaylen Brown.
Now, Jaylen Brown is a guy that I would love to see the Sixers make a move at.
But if you're Boston, you're moving him to your division, your conference rival.
It's not going to happen.
No, you're moving him to Minnesota or somewhere. You know what I mean?
Middle of nowhere.
Right. You're just moving him. And Minnesota you're moving him to a team that really wants him.
Yeah.
Like Denver and Minnesota are fringe championship teams in the West.
Right.
So one of those teams, they get a hold of Jaylen Brown.
I feel like a team like the Clippers could land Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, well, then he's on a road to nowhere for the rest of his career.
The Clippers are kind of like the NBA's version of the Raiders.
They're sort of like the Raiders. Sure, yeah. That's actually not a bad...
Devontae Adams goes there, career dies.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And maybe that'll change with Brady there now.
It's true. Brady is a minority owner there.
I think that Brady was watching who Howie was bringing in for the top 30 visits, and like he drafted a couple of those guys.
Hey, that's not a bad dude to take lessons from.
Because Brady said something in one of the broadcasts. I think it was the Washington game, the NFC Championship, where he was like, "Yeah, you got to really watch Howie Roseman and how he moves in the offseason, the way he drafts," and he was like saying stuff, and then he goes and he basically shadowed Howie's top 30 visits.
I get it. The man's only 50 years old, Tek. Howie Roseman.
Yeah.
Only 50 years old.
I wish he could run all the other teams because he would have made the Phillies better. He would have definitely made the Sixers better without question. And by now, he would have turned the Flyers around. Howie would have completely turned the Flyers around.
Flyers are on their way up, though. What a nice trade. That's a nice trade, right?
Yes. Trevor Zegras. He at one point, he was going to be the face of the league. He's still young. He's 24 years old.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not a huge hockey guy, as you know, in terms of like knowing all the ins and outs, but from what I'm hearing, I read a few articles, seems like this is a move that could actually pair nicely with what they're already doing.
Yes, and the big word for this move is potential. It potentially could be huge.
Well, isn't that what we always hear?
We always say that,
I mean, Markelle Fultz had potential.
Right. But Zegras, he was a phenom in the league. He had like 3 20-plus goal years.
Yeah, just sometimes guys need a fresh reload.
But he got hurt.
Hey,
For the last 2 years, he suffered injuries in both back-to-back years of injuries after 3 phenomenal years.
Right.
And it set him back, so maybe a fresh start. He's healthy now.
Yeah. I mean,
pair him with Mitch Goff.
I like it. I mean, look, it's been a while since we had winning hockey in this town.
Yeah, and then
they made the playoffs a couple years ago, but it was kind of fluky. But
yes, and then the draft is tonight, so who knows? Maybe you get the big Swedish guy, or you get James Hagens, who I know is the popular name being thrown around at 6.
I know nothing.
Yeah, well, there's a few guys, and I think the other guy is Jake O'Brien. So there's a couple guys that you could land. They have the 6.
Jake O'Brien. That's not a hockey name. That's an insurance agent name.
I know. Or it's like a quarterback.
Yes.
But they could land one of these guys. They pick 6th. They have
good pick.
I think they have 6. They have like 6 draft picks in the first 2 rounds.
Well, that sounds promising.
Yeah, I think they have 3 in the first round. So
only question is who's stopping the goals.
Well, I think there's a goalie that they could probably get at the end of the first round who is one of the top goalies. It's not a big goalie draft.
Okay.
But you could probably land him with one of your other first-round picks.
Yeah. Nice.
So they could get that guy. He's 18 years old, so he's not going to be up right away. He'll be with the Phantoms or whatever.
What do you think Carter Hart's doing right now?
I think Carter Hart is ready to be dismissed of all charges and potentially making a run to come back.
He's just been sitting at home.
Yeah, well, with an ankle bracelet on. I mean, he wasn't able to leave the house or the country or whatever.
That's a brutal turn of events for a guy that was supposed to be like our next Ron Hextall.
He was supposed to be the franchise guy, and by the way, I thought that he had potential to be that, but he wasn't really that while he was here. Before it all took place, he really wasn't that, But
he wasn't. He had some flashes, and I do remember that there was a couple really good performances, but then he would have games where he would just get shot out the building.
Yes. And that would happen frequently. Yeah. More than you would like to see from your franchise guy.
He was thinking about young girls.
I know. I think that was an incident.
Weren't we all when we were 18, 19?
I think he might have been there. This happened, I think, when he was in college or
I keyed.
Yeah, I think when he was in the Canadian championship team. Yeah. I think it was like he was there, but he didn't do it per se.
That won't be part of the video content.
No, right. I think he'll be cleared, and I think he'll be ready to return. And I think the Flyers may, if they don't do something at goalie, they may be interested in bringing him back.
Yeah, hey, I mean, look, everyone deserves a second chance. I make jokes, but everyone deserves a second chance, and the kid's young. We've all been in situations or in rooms that we know we shouldn't be in.
And they need a goalie. They need a goalie.
If only they would have kept the Bob.
Yeah. Oh, look at him.
I know.
I mean, unbelievable.
2-time Stanley Cup champion on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, on his way to the Hall of Fame.
On his way.
Unbelievable. And this is the Flyers. This is
This is our hockey reality.
Howie Roseman would have fixed the Flyers years ago.
You think Howie Roseman could cure cancer?
I don't know about. I wouldn't go that far, but when it comes to sports,
okay, fair enough.
I think Howie can fix a team that can't fix itself.
Yeah, no, you're right.
He could fix the Sixers.
He showed that with the Birds. I mean,
yeah, because he made mistake after mistake after mistake, year after year after year, and then sort of either by hiring the right people, putting the right people around him, he corrected and
a lot
learned.
of it was front office culture.
Yeah, he learned from those mistakes, and he had the right staff around him, the right people that were scouting the talent, the right talent.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the right people in his ear.
Absolutely.
He corrected course. He completely changed how he did things, his approach.
He did.
And it made the Eagles the team they are, and it made him one of the top GMs in pro sports.
Just remarkable, man.
And if he can do that, I feel like, man, why can't these other GMs do it? Like, I look at Briere at the Flyers, and I shake my head. I look at Daryl Morey, and I just think that guy is out of his mind.
He's delusional, man.
Delusional, clueless, and moronic. And by the way, that's another thing with the Sixers. Based on their draft pick and who's on their roster currently, I don't know what their plan is. I have no idea what their plan is.
I couldn't tell you that either.
I don't know what their plan is.
I also don't know rocket science, but it feels like this is kind of like rocket science for Daryl Morey.
It is.
And he's not a rocket scientist either.
Far from it.
Yeah.
Far from it.
But it's almost like, he's like in the room with the rocket scientists, and they're all like doing the advanced physics, and he's like over there like adding 5 + 7.
Yes.
It's almost like that.
That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like. You're talking about a very deranged human being who of limited intelligence.
Probably smoking a cigar somewhere in his delusion.
Yeah, this is it. Now, we weren't here last week, so we have to deal with the picks.
Yes.
We have to figure out where we are with these picks. So,
well, I have a little bit of a curveball for you.
There it is. All right, so let's do it. Let's hit the picks.
It's time for Prem's Picks.
These games are a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
Prem's MLB Picks. Where are we at? Because we were off last week.
So, last week, there was a wild storm, and I know the power was out the studio. Hopefully, it wasn't out too long.
Yeah, it was out for 2 days.
So,
we lost
prior
power for
to
2
that,
days.
I had already written down on my master notepad here that I do my digital notepad what my picks were.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you, and I kept track, I went 2-1. I'm going to tell you what I would have had last week when we didn't do the show. First off, I would have came in 15-6 because the previous week I went 2-1.
Right.
So then I came in, I had the Phils over the Mets at the bank on Friday, which happened.
Yep.
I had the Rangers over the Pirates in Pittsburgh, which happened.
Yep.
But the Twins lost to the Brewers, and I had the Twins over the Brewers. So I went 2-1 in our show that didn't happen last week.
Yes.
And on the honor system, I had it recorded early in the day. I'm going to use it. I'm now 17-7 with those picks because they were written down. Tek.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it. All right. I'll allow it. Yes.
I think it's fair.
Yes.
So with that said, I'm 17-7, and here are the episode 168 locks.
Locks.
Well, you got a really good game in Cincinnati. The Reds actually are a quality baseball team. They've been winning. They're getting huge crowds, kind of reminiscent of the 70s and the 90s when they were good. But the Padres come to town, and I like the Padres tonight in Cincy, which has kind of quietly become, like I said, like it used to be, like a harder place to win. But, the Padres are just a superior club. You got Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres.
Oh, boy.
Going against Nick Martinez, who's pretty good for the Reds, too. This is a pretty good game. But I think that the Padres come out on top. Going cross-country west to east isn't easy. But I like the Padres. It's 7:10 tonight, first pitch at Great American Ballpark. Beautiful park, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot like Citizens Bank Park. And that's a lock.
Lock.
Next, Tek, you have a battle of Central Division teams from different leagues. An interleague Central Division battle with the Guardians hosting the Cardinals in Cleveland. This is a good game. These are two teams that are kind of like in that almost contender category. The Cardinals are 44-38. Guardians just one game over, but they have superior pitching. They really have good pitching. I think the Guardians against Sonny Gray, who's one of the best pitchers on the staff in St. Louis, I think the Guardians find a way to get the win at home tonight in Cleveland over the Cardinals. Again, Sonny Gray, 7-2, a 3.72 ERA. And the Guardians are throwing Luis Ortiz on the mound, who we saw, who, when he has his control, he's lights out. I mean, he's got 91 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He has a higher whip this year, but I think that they do enough to get the win in Cleveland in front of the home crowd.
Lock.
My last pick is a battle of AL West contenders. You have the Rangers hosting the Mariners in Texas. By the way, how about this Cal Raleigh, this Mariners catcher that is on a Barry Bonds home run pace? Tek, you familiar with this?
I saw.
It's uncanny.
I know.
The guy is like only a few home runs shy of matching Bonds' record.
You have to think
before
he'll
the
get
All-Star
it.
break. I mean, it's pretty interesting to watch. But the Rangers are throwing Nathan Eovaldi on the mound. Tek, he's got a 1.56 ERA this year.
One of the better pitchers in baseball.
One of the better pitchers in baseball, but Logan Gilbert going for the Mariners. I'm picking games with 3 really good pitching matchups. I don't like to pick the easy gimme games.
Right.
I like to pick the games that the bettors want to hear who's going to win.
Right.
And I'm 17-7, Tek, and I'm trying to stay on track.
Yep.
I'm trying to get to 20-7 this week.
Oh, there you go.
Sounds like a football score.
Yeah.
I think Logan Gilbert's good. We know Cal Raleigh is good. And I'm going to take a look here at Cal Raleigh's numbers against Eovaldi.
It's ridiculous right now, this kid.
Well, Cal Raleigh has gone yard off of Nathan Eovaldi.
Oh,
He's got
boy.
a 286 mark, 14 at-bats. Actually, some of these Mariners have good numbers against him. But I think that the Rangers in Texas get it done at home. They're floating around 500. They're only a game behind the Mariners in the standings. They're all kind of trailing the Astros, as we know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I think the Rangers find a way to beat the Seattle Mariners in Texas.
Lock.
So to recap, we have the Padres traveling cross country to beat the Reds in Cincinnati.
Lock.
The Guardians hosting the Interleague Central Division Cardinals and winning at home in Cleveland.
Lock.
And the Rangers, 1 year removed from a World Series championship Rangers club, defeating the Mariners in Texas.
Lock.
This has been the latest edition of Prem's MLB Picks.
Hopefully the Phils get back on track, and we will see you next week.
Vet Alumni.